The Smart Station really is a no-compromise portable wood shop. I've been using this in this form now since 2020, and there's not much that I can come up with to improve upon it, except one thing. I want to untether it from the wall. That's right, I want to go cordless, and I'm close, but I'm going to need your help on that. The Smart Woodshop, as you see it today, it didn't start here. It actually started decades ago when I worked in the field as a carpenter, a finish carpenter, building little benches and plywood on sawhorses, buying what I could that was available on the market, making it work so that I could go around and trim finish houses. That's how I started in my professional career, was going in and doing finish work, hanging doors, moldings, cabinets, putting in subfloors, subtops, the typical things that you would do on a complete finish package, wrapping windows, handrails, all of those things. And I worked solo, so I wanted to preserve my body so that I wasn't down working on my knees all day. So I wanted benches, I wanted table saws that were up and miter saw stands, and I've built so many different ones over the years. And they all worked to some degree and answered some issue. And then around the 2007, 2008, the big housing collapse, I went from being wall-to-wall busy, building anywhere from 2 to 10 homes at one time, to the phone stopped ringing. Well, I took advantage of that time and designed a workbench that I had been thinking about, bringing a lot of those things together. That went through many, many iterations. I'm going to speed this up. Maybe I'll do a long history at some time if you're interested. But anyway, that started with the Paulk workbench, and then the workbench 2, and then the predecessor to this, the Total Station, then the Total Station 2. And then jumping ahead to 2020, we all know what happened. The big shutdown, COVID. And I took that time to rethink everything. That's when everything changed. I was struggling with the router, which at the time was set into the Total Station, and I wanted more space. I wanted a bigger router table, and there was no way to do it. And I got to thinking, why am I working inside the bench, flush with the bench, when I can go on top of it? That's when I designed the Smart Router Table. It wasn't called the Smart Router Table at the time, but that's what you're looking at here. In fact, this one was the prototype, and this was the finished one here. From there, realizing that rather than trying to make everything flush with the top, rather using the bench as the foundation for everything, then I was able to do the cradle, put the table saw on, the other cradles that hold the other benchtop tools, and the panel rig. There's just so many accessories that make up the Smart system, and that all came about with that big change of working on top rather than trying to work flush. Later that same year, the Smart Kart came. The biggest revolution to the Smart system, when I put all of the benches, all of the Smart accessories, everything on wheels. 100x. If you say, how much better is it? Is it incremental? Putting the Paulk system on wheels changed everything. When I get to a job, or when I would get to a job, whether way back decades ago, or when I was working with the Paulk benches and the station, I would get on the job and plan where to put the bench. Because once I set it up, I want to get the most out of that time setting it up. So I think about, where's the trim going to be stacked? Where am I going to be working? What cabinets am I setting? Set the bench up. If I'm doing flooring, I'm thinking about where I'm going to start the flooring, the ideal spot, set off to one side so then I can go that direction, eventually move the system onto what I put down on the tarp. You know the thing, just plan, plan, plan. Now, I don't plan at all, not 1 second. I bring the tools, the benches, right onto the job, wherever I'm going to set up, in the garage or in the great room, usually one of those two, sometimes on the second floor. But I get everything there, is right in the middle of the room. I set it up, and then I can move it. Inches, feet, it doesn't matter. Not only that, but I can move it to where I want to be at that time rather than that ideal spot over there, but now I've got to walk 20 or 30 or 40 feet back and forth, putting down hardwood or setting cabinets. The wheels, I cannot overemphasize the most important change to make the whole system so efficient, so ergonomic, and just fun to use. If you'd like to get yourself a detailed set of plans to build a smart station, a smart bench, any of the accessories that work with the system, or the Smart Woodshop itself, there'll be a link in the description of this video down below. So the Smart Woodshop is portable, it's modular, and it's mobile. Now I want to make it cordless. And this is where I need your help. I want to put a power bank right here in this space. I've redone my vacuum system a little bit, the manifold, so I've got more space here. The size that we can work with, 29 inches long, about 14 inches wide, and height, we have plenty of spaces, I'd say around 20 inches. So let's double check that and write it down. So we'll go 14, and I'm going to shrink it down, we're going to call it 28, probably around 20, but we could go up to even 22. I'm going to call it 20. So 14 by 28 by 20 is the dimensions we have to work with. I want enough power to run the Smart Station the entire full work day and have power left over at the end. I want to be able to plug it in at the end of the day and have it charge up so that the next day it's ready to go. I don't want to be trying to skimp on power and think, oh, I'm running out. I want it to charge fast, and I want just plenty of power. So I want a big unit. I want it to accept a solar charge, and I want it rated so that it'll accept quite a bit of solar wattage. And I know some of them I've looked at, they're kind of limited, so solar charging might be slow. I'd also like it to be able to run the Smart Woodshop. So when I get to a job, the Smart Station isn't always the first thing out. This is for finish work. This is when I get to hanging doors and putting in cabinets and all the really fun stuff. When I start a new house or a remodel, there's excavation, foundation, framing, siding. If it's a remodel, there's demo. There's a whole lot that goes on before the Smart Station comes out. If I get to a job and I don't have power, which is rare, but at least if I've got the system, I'd like it to be able to do that. Have a spot in the Smart Woodshop that I can just plug it in internally and run it. It would to run the compressor, charge the batteries, run the lights. A lot less challenging or a lot less demanding, I think, than running this all day long, but it's something I'd like it to be able to do. And then finally, I would like a system that's expandable. If I've got it, I would like to be able to use it at home when the power goes out. I don't want to buy a whole separate power system for the house. It's so rare that we're without power that that would be kind of a waste. This is really much more important, something that's very functional. Because with this situation, even if I have power, which I do almost all the time, making it cordless is an advantage to moving around, not having the cord in the way, and not finding a place to plug it in. So that's the real need and the use, but I might as well get something that'll work for those other two uses. So by making it expandable at the house, I might want to run a refrigerator, a freezer, a couple things like that, maybe a whole day, who knows, maybe 2 days, if it's a real bad power outage. And so if I had a module that plugged into that to extend its ability to work longer. So back to the main purpose, the Paulk Smart Station. I have a table saw, I have a couple of routers, I have the miter saw, and I have the vacuum, as well as some other benchtop tools like the Craig Foreman and the sander that hang off of this, as well as hand tools that are still corded, a few of those anyway. At any one given time, I'll only be running 2 tools. The vacuum will always be running. There's a squid on this with 5 plugs hanging out. So the table saw, the miter saw, both routers, and then whatever other tool I have can be all plugged in at one time. When any one of them is turned on, it activates the vacuum. So I'll be running the vacuum and 1 tool. So that will be the draw that I have. I don't want it right at just the draw. I want it bigger than that. So I'm looking for the perfect unit, and batteries have gotten so much lighter and smaller. So I'm reaching out to the Smart fam, the Brain Trust. With all of you out there, I know that many of you have power banks and power supplies. You may have ones that you don't like and you want to say, don't go with this one. Ones that you've sort of heard about, say to check into them. Maybe a friend has one, and then some of you may have one yourself that you think will be perfect. So let's put our heads together, use the comment section in this video, and let's all dialogue with me and you, and also with each other, and let's come up with the perfect power bank to make the Smart Station cordless. If you're interested in finding out how I created more space by modifying the manifold for the vacuum system, then you might want to check out this video right here.